So, hello everybody. I welcome you to this basic income tea. My name is Ulrich Schachtschneider. I'm member of board of UBIE, Unconditional Basic Income Europe. And this organization is campaigning and looking for ways to implement unconditional basic income and steps to it in Europe. The basic income tea format is there's 1 hour tea time on basic income questions with guests. And the first half, we will have an interview with guests. And during that, you can comment and ask questions using the Q&A tool, and also state for sure own positions in the chat and on social media. We will take your questions and comments in the second half and bring that into the debate. The topic for today is unconditional basic income and degrowth, friends or foes. Basic income normally is reasoned as a measure to fight poverty, to liberate labor conditions, to enable creativity, to decrease bureaucracy, to pay a digitalization dividend, and so on. Less sound are arguments which connect basic income to the socio-ecological transition. Part of that is the growing idea that our economies cannot be permanently dependent on ever constantly growing economies in terms of GDP, of gross domestic product, especially in the rich global north. And a thesis is that a basic income would have an anti-growth component, because everybody can say more easily no to jobs which from his or her point of view are no longer suited in terms of ecological, social, or individual benefits. Also, it would give experimental space for everybody to experience, to test lifestyles beyond the treadmill work, consume, work. So in sum, the economic security of, so that's the thesis, the economic security of basic income would make a degrowth behavior in this big transition to sustainability better possible. Not only for avant-gardists, people who do that today, but also for broader layers of population. But there are also some counter arguments. So that's the discussion for today. And I will discuss this with our guests. It's Adrienne Goehler. She's a freelance curator and author and basic income activist. And she's the author of this book. The title in German is Nachhaltigkeit.
You cannot see it.
You cannot see it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. The title in German is Nachhaltigkeit braucht Entschleunigung, braucht Grundeinkommen, braucht Grundauskommen. And in English, it's basic income needs deceleration, needs basic income, briefly said. The second guest is Hanna Ketterer. She is member of the University of Jena research group on post-growth societies. And she published several scientific contributions on the issue basic income and post-growth. So my first question to Adrienne, we start with Adrienne. My first question is, yes, what is the cultural impact of an enhanced life security with basic income. Adrienne.
Hi, thank you very much for having invited me. I'm sorry that the light is not the super. I mean, it's not for a movie star, but maybe it's okay. Well, I try to approach that subject in that triangle you mentioned. I think, of course, if we have time and if we have a minimum of liberty to choose, we can live more sustainable, and we can be part of a degrowth movement. Because I'm psychologist by profession or by formation, because it's not what I'm doing anymore right now, but it is always in my mind, because I feel so many people that they buy, they consume because they live in shitty working conditions. They work and work and work and work, and then they feel, I need to buy something, I need to go for 4 days to Paris shopping, I need to do this and this. And the idea of this triangle, deceleration, sustainability, and basic income, which I define more and more than as livelihood, because I feel myself more and more far from the idea that I need something to get an income. I need to bring something. I need to give something. But if I define livelihood as a human right, in the time of crisis, of planetary crisis, then I can have a different approach. And I'm quite optimistic. I'm quite sure that if you have the liberty of choice, because you have more time, you have a fundament where you can lean on, where you can be stabilized off, then you will have another lifestyle. And this could go much more together with degrowth. And of course, as Ulrich told me 5 minutes ago, degrowth in German, the Bruttosozialprodukt. We learned that from Tibet and from other societies. We have to shift the paradigms of what is growth, what is what we think should grow, and what should definitely degrow. And that is, of course, very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. So, Hanna, what is your answer to that strong claim that with basic income we would have the liberty of choice, and the basic income would give us a friendly livelihood for this cultural change?
Yeah, thank you. I actually think there are quite some common grounds in our views, but also some specificities. I also think that the basic income is a revolutionary idea because of this idea of decoupling income from labor. And it actually breaks with one of the conditions that makes capitalism work, which is that people have to sell their labor power in order to live. Philippe van Parijs here argues that basic income is real freedom for everyone. But what I'm interested in is whether indeed people would make use of that freedom, and from a degrowth, and also in which ways. And from a degrowth perspective, yeah, which we just said, a degrowth perspective aims to massively reduce material and energetic throughput. Basic income would need to be used in very specific ways. So it would need to be used to reduce paid work, to share wage labor, to increase care work, to engage in the solidarity economy, etc., etc. And there's not much evidence for this, though. Basic income experiments show that people with an income guarantee report lower stress levels, but they also show that they continue engaging in wage labor. And my own research looks at guaranteed livelihoods in a commune amongst rentiers, so people who live off capital income, and amongst pensioners. And it brings to the surface how intricate of an entanglement there exists between how people judge themselves, the wage, and their labor. And I find that living off capital that is not generated through own wage labor can actually pose an existential threat in the absence of status legitimacy or social recognition. And this is, because we have this disposition to wage labor that is deeply incorporated. It's a deeply incorporated belief that it's not only necessary, but also utmost desirable to engage in paid work. And this is something we already learn as a child when we are being dropped at the daycare because our parents have to go to work. And it is also part of our education and then our experience once we enter the labor market. And the labor market is where we not only gain economic, but also symbolic capital, that is recognition by others for our contribution in wage labor. Hence, what is needed for people to turn away from a wage labor orientation, this my claim, is a habitus transformation. So that is a complete overhaul of the habitus, which is this inner structure that structures how we look at ourselves, at our labor, and also at the world around us more generally.
Okay, thank you. Adrienne, is that correct that there's a deep desire for paid work? And yes, it is not sure when I've got Hanna correctly that with basic income we can overcome this deep desire for paid work.
Well, I have a radical private statistic. Wherever I'm sitting in a train or find somebody nice or sympathetic, I ask him, sorry, may I ask you a question? What would you do if your income would be there regularly, a basic income, an unconditional basic income? And in my statistic, there are only 2 or 3 people saying, no, I don't want to have it. I want to have my job. Most of them say, of course, I would continue to work, but I would work in a different way. I would probably change completely what I'm doing. I would do the same, but maybe only half time. So people always refer, of course, to their paid job, but not in the either or condition, but it would help me to get a freedom to decide how much I want to invest. And also, I mean, my mother, I think I told that Ulrich, because it's quite still quite dominant in my views. My mother, she died, but she was in a house for elderly people, and I asked a lot of them, would you continue with your work if you would have a basic income? And they said, yes, I love my work, but not the conditions. And I would do this, and this, but I would never do this, that, and that. And this, I think, is a enormous a potential that we also that we also change paid work, because people have another access to it. For me, it is not, and the basic income, Hanna, is not an all-round weapon or an all-round guarantee. But in German, you would say, oh my God, I'm not sure but everybody of you will understand it. Es ist eine notwendige, aber keineswegs hinreichende Bedingung. It's a necessary condition, but it is not enough. Because an asshole will remind probably an asshole. Somebody who is totally bad in life, he will not all of a sudden get happy and social. But it allows you as an adult individual to put more impact in your own capacity. In German, it's, I mean, I created a four word sentence, which is the shortest way for me to make possible the change, the cultural change, the dramatic cultural change that could be linked to a basic income. It is the shift of paradigm from we have to, and we must to, we are able to, and we can do. That is the important shift for me. Again, it is more psychological than sociological, but all of the talks I had with the people, what would you do if? Most of them say I would love, also men by the way, I would love to have more time for caring. And caring.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
So the answers from the people, you reported surveys, the answers were the majority would love to have more time and so on, would decrease their working hours, would make this change from having to being, you mentioned. The question to Hanna, isn't that evidence enough?
Well, I think it's not really reliable, I'd probably say. I mean, you're asking a very hypothetical question, and you're also asking very specific people that a lot of people that are already involved in basic income projects around the world, or people who are probably who have already quite an acute sense of how life could be improved because they live in insecurity. Also, a lot of artists, they have this problem. So there is probably rather positive outlook on basic income. That's something that I thought. And well, I think that also the evidence that I quote to be self-critical on experiments, that you can also have a critique on that. I'm also not the biggest fan of experiments because they're also very limited in time, and maybe people may not really change their behavior that much if they know after 3 years they are back in the normal labor market. So probably you might see potential a bigger change if basic income is implemented longer term. And I also don't deny there may be potential for transformation in basic income in the longer term, but a habitus transformation is not just an inner cultural change. It is a concept that is linked to the social structures, to the society around. This is very important. The way we behave is the product of the past, of the experience we've accumulated throughout childhood and education over the past. And I think we need to, as much time as it took to develop the latter, this habitus with a very strong orientation towards wage labor and consumerism, it will also take time to dismantle this position. And
sorry to interrupt you. That is just the argument that a basic income have the capacity to change the societal structures you meant. Because with basic income, yes, the feeling of the individual in the big world is that he is more equal to the other participants of society, and he is more safe, and that is a big change in the structure of the way an individual is felt within in the outer social world. That's just an argument that basic income is necessary to change these habitus.
But would it really? Because equality, I think there is not a conclusive evidence whether basic income would actually increase equality within societies, for example, because there's no upper limit. So people up on the hierarchy, they might still accumulate a lot of wealth. And so the question if it's really that much of a change in relation between different groups.
It's not only in economic terms, but in, as I call it, social terms. So the felt equality, because everybody in society will get this basic income. And that's very important for the felt equality. But Adrienne wants to answer too.
First, Hanna, I wanted to say my statistic is not an RT statistic. I'm I was the last years, I was very often in the train, and it's the train situation. And I talked to so many people who said, "What are you talking about? What are you? No, don't know." And my secretary said, "Basic income, unconditional basic income, I don't want to have it." And this is, by the way, an interesting observation I made, that people from former RDR, they they don't believe in the word unconditioned. No. There must be something hidden behind. And if you talk more and more and say, no, it's you who can decide, then I understood that most of them said, we would like to share the work. We would like to share, to have different balances in our life, a balance in our life, basically, they say, because we need time to recover. We need all that. And I just want to, even as a psychologist and somebody who made a long psychoanalysis, I can tell you, I know that it's very difficult to change from 1 minute to the other. And of course, our heritage, our subjective heritage is dominating also some kind. But I lived the experience I was there for 4 weeks, and I was constantly going to a place in Namibia, which was the one village where the basic income was introduced. And what was so remarkable, that it really changed the mentality from totally depression, because there was no paid labor, and men were quite violent and they left the families. It changed within 2 years from a
economy of distrust.
Economy of mistrust to economy of confidence, because they said, okay, if we put together our money, we could buy more goats, we could buy more chicken, and then it gives us more outcome. It was all they, from the very beginning on, they developed and invented new rules in their community. And this made me so, learning from Africa. I mean, I really came back from Namibia with the idea, wow, it is possible. It is possible that we change. And of course, it was not a lot of money. Of course, not everybody got it, by the way. But it was such a significant change in the feeling of the people. And this is also what mein Grundeinkommen, this movement, people tell. It made me more free to look what I'm really able to do, what I want to do.
Hanna, a question on you as a sociologist. Is that also valid for modern society, what Adrienne reported about Africa? So in modern society, there are different structures and different values. So can we expect also this change in habitus as it can be seen in Namibia?
Well, I think that the economy is different, and let's speak about we're in Germany now, or Europe, compared to the EU, compared to Namibia, and capitalism has different structures in these places, and so that's why I think we will see different reactions to basic income. And my point is that we have to start from the society as it is. Basic income will be implemented in this society, and recognition is given to your contribution in wage labor the most, you become a valued member through this one type of activity. And so So this is what will what we will have to deal with, and what basic income will not abolish from one day to the next. I think there is a symbolic order established that basic income may propose an alternative one, but it needs to become internalized yet again, and this will take a couple of generations, I would think so. And it matters how we justify it. I really think it's crucially important how we introduce it, how we name it. Otherwise, it might not even have the chance of becoming internalized as, let's say, a democratic citizenship right. And I just wanted to say that from my own research in a little community, a commune, where basically people founded this community and said, we want to live according to the communist principles. So each according to his abilities, each according to her capacities. They still struggle, even in such a place where they want to do things differently, where they want to share different types of paid and unpaid work more evenly, and where they want to decenter the wage labor. After decades, there's still this thing that people judge themselves when they take out. When they use money, oh, how much did I bring in, and how much can I take out? And so I think
the second step before the first. I'm sorry, Hanna. I mean, if I would now try to imagine a bunch of people with them, I'm starting to talk about equalized budgets, and everybody has the same. Jesus Christ! I mean, I did that. Like 30 years ago, or even maybe much more, because in the first community we said everybody has to touch the same money and whatever. Boah, it was so complicated because all the personal relationships were involved. But if you make that as a human right, it is different. You don't have to agree with me about my lifestyle. You know, everybody could stay, and it is, again, I mean, very often I feel that the big mistake is done. It is not the abolishment of work, of paid work. It is just you have another starting point, and you have a point of negotiation. You have a point of no, I'm not doing that for this money. I'm doing that maybe for the double, or I only come for. You have a power to negotiate, and I'm very skeptical. If I mean, you say 2, 3, 4 generations. I'm sorry, I'm too old. I will not. I want to have it now. I don't want to have it in 3 generations, and I'm confident because all. You might be familiar or not. I mean, in Canada in the 70s, it was a big, in one city, they implemented the basic income. Ulrich probably knows even more than I do. And now they found all the papers. And it is totally clear. This was a city. It was not in Africa. It was a city in Canada. And people went back to labor, but under different conditions. They were much more healthy. They only women or one adult households with several kids did not go to paid labor, and it because people are, of course they define themselves through work. But if they have the freedom to choose what they are identified with, I think that makes a society, now comes the psychological idea, it makes the society more healthy. And of course, capitalism is not abolished through basic income. But if you have the time, I refer again to deceleration, if you have the time and if you have the self consciousness to say, no, I want to live in a more sustainable way, or a way which is not hurting the planet nor nature, then I'm quite confident that you might have different values, develop different values.
Okay, thank you. So I will ask you something from the Q&A section. There is one question. Can we assume that independent artists get recognition without wage labor? And I think we can enhance that question to every branch. So can we assume that yes, recognition, which is very important in modern society, where we don't know each other, can we assume that yes, we get this recognition without wage labor?
Herrgott, you don't have to stop to be an artist because you get a basic income. What is that idea? I don't understand it. But what I see in the art is that you are running like a rabbit around your circle, because you have to make an application and after an application and after an application to survive, and you need to produce. Really, to produce. I mean, we are not only producing too many cars and too many yogurts and I don't know what else. We are forced to produce too much artworks, artifacts.
Okay, Hanna, do you have an answer on that?
Well, no,
the question was, is it possible to get recognition without paid labor? Societal recognition.
Well, yeah, you usually get recognition is something you get within society. You can also get love from other relationships. It's something that you can back for your work. Well, you might give an exhibition, be recognized, but at the end of the day, to continue your work, yeah, you need the income, I guess.
It's thinkable that people just take the basic income grant and make their work, and if they don't have so high consumption needs and ideas. So, and a counter argument often heard from trade unions is, oh, the people need this recognition, which they get only by paid labor. So that's one counter argument often heard. Okay, but there's another question from the chat to both. That's yes. Don't you think that the condition of a real change on the level of individuals and of socio-economic structures might be that basic income and also complementary changes on the level of economy take place, for instance, as proposed by the movement of the economy for the common good, a social fair economy with certain rules to reach that. In German language, Gemeinwohlökonomie. So is it necessary to have in parallel such structures?
I think a lot of different ways are encouraged by, I mean, again, I would say the basic income gives me a fundament to act in a different way. And what I feel that more and more people, I mean, this has a lot to do with Corona, a lot with, I mean, everything was really accelerated. The thinking about basic income was all of a sudden last March, it started that people said, wait a minute, maybe we really have to change radically what we face now. And you probably know that also better than I do, but from a webinar in South Africa, somebody reported, somebody from university in Joburg, that 150 countries the question started to be debated. Not always, yes, we want to have it, but it came into the mind of a lot of people saying, maybe this is now a moment to really have different priorities, it seems. And I would say, like Otto Lüdemann was, of course, I know him. I think it helps. I mean, I'm always thinking about nets, you know, and I think the basic income could be like the first approach, and then we need to have or we still or already have the debates about common goods, about exchange economy. This is what we start. Yeah.
Yeah, Hanna, you want to answer?
Yeah, I actually think that it is necessary to complement basic income by other policies to foster the ecological impact, or that it is compatible with degrowth. Yeah, I think here there are all things possible to imagine, and but a good thing are what is called eco-social infrastructures, so basically public goods that you spend in goods, for example, public mobility, which is also affordable, and in good, I don't know, regional products that everyone can afford to buy, etc. So they can be complementary or even mutually reinforcing. The corona pandemic is very interesting. I think it affected people and households very differently. So for one example, one thing I saw was that actually when or I think a lot of families with children could feel was actually that it didn't really help getting an extra bonus, extra income, child support, when the care facilities were closed. So the freedom you got out of that money was very little. So you couldn't do anything basically as normally maybe working parents. So you had to take care, and so it's very interesting to see that there are different assets of each policy.
Hanna, I'm very much criticizing the basic income movement for not thinking radically about the 17 SDGs. Because if you really want to abolish poverty all over the world, I mean, you need to start to understand how you deal with this. And therefore I wrote that book, because I'm fed up of these echo rooms. You know, there is the basic income, there is the movement for sustainability, and there is, I don't know, the mobility movement. No, we have to interact now. And with the basic income, you also have less excuses. You know, I know so many people who said, no, I don't have the time. I would love to engage here, there, and there, but I don't have the time. If you have a basic income as a fundament, you are more, the question how much you can give to society, I think gets another frame, or also another necessity.
Okay, thank you. So I will make a shortcut here, and we will have Paul now on just this question. So the question is, will a basic income lead to more degrowth lifestyles? So you see the Paul fashion
mostly,
and
yeah, okay, cool.
Okay, so result, as I see it, there's a majority in favor of this claim, most likely. I think for sure we cannot claim that this will happen for 100%, but as a majority say most likely, a small minority say most likely not. And there's a quarter, 25% who say definitely yes, so 100%. Okay, so I will now come to another question. We talk about this possible positive impact on the degrowth transition, but a critical question often heard is, okay, when we will have this degrowth impact, then we have no more money to finance the basic income. So what is with that?
Okay.
Who will start?
I can start.
Yeah.
I think it's a question that is not only relevant for basic income, but for social policies in general. And I think we need to ask the question, which kind of social security system we want to have. So, and how do social policies need to look like to cater to basic human needs? And how can we sustain, for example, a decent level of health to everyone through a citizen's health scheme or also a citizen's pension scheme? And I think, and the question, can we, and for degrowth, I think we probably ought to replace existing pensions to the level of a basic income, or at least reduce them quite a bit. And through these ways, I think we could make basic income less growth dependent. And to start with, so if we wanted to introduce basic income, I think we should look for funding bases where most growth is being generated at the moment, and this is in financial markets. And there should also be discussion about the intergenerational transmission of wealth, which is strongly protected by national law. And we should also we also need international policies that regulate tax havens, because they also contribute to widening social inequalities. And there I agree with Adrienne, she made this point very early, that these areas, they should be regulated and non-growing, but other areas like the care and healthcare systems, which are directly linked to the reproduction of people and nature, they ought still be allowed to grow. So this is an argument for some sort of different kinds of growth or sectoral growth. And I think such measures, they may also help reduce our society's structural dependence on growth if they go to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is in capital accumulation. That is, if measures also address the private ownership over the means of production and competition, then I think we could establish an economy which would be more oriented towards catering to human needs and not to profits. And I think given the crisis that we face, the state really has an active role to play, but there is also potential for more bottom-up approaches. If I wanted to be positive and not skeptical, then I would quote Eric Olin Wright, who makes a direct link of how basic income may go to the root of the problem. He says, well, we could all pool our individual basic incomes to fund social cooperatives. And these social cooperatives are organizations that do not want to increase profits, but focus on what people really need, and they are run democratically and so on. Well, I don't see them popping up quickly, but this is a longer term way of thinking about it. Yeah.
So the money for the basic income would then come from social cooperatives and from the care sector, roughly spoken, and not from the financial markets and all these bad branches. Adrienne, what's your
I usually
statement?
say I was always bad in economics, and the fact that I'm so much enthusiastic about basic income doesn't make me a good economist. but what I am really believing in, we need a strongly multidisciplinary approach. I want the DFG, die Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, who has billions every year, to set up a really long time study where we discuss with people from medicine, psychology, ecological people. I mean, we need really to make a bilan. How you say that? Eine Bilanz? Bilanz? No, this is not English. We have to bring all that in consideration. Of course, I strongly believed 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that I can change capitalism. And I was totally frustrated that it did not work. And I really passed a lot of energy in it. And now I think that it is a shift. I feel that with the basic income, you can not abolish capitalism, but you can start to have much more self-confidence to be part of a change. And I think now is the time where the people, I mean, like the heritage question is, I think, there. The Tageszeitung makes a big campaign saying you could give the money to not only to your children, but to, for instance, to the newspaper. And there's a lot of people responding to that. I think we need a lot of more taxes. Who is taking the resources has to pay. We need transactions tax. We need tax on people who think they have to go 5 times a year, I don't know, to Hollywood or to wherever they want to go. So there are a lot of approaches we could find the money, and not in the social sector, but of course in the in the big sector. I mean, every debate we have should be based on the fact that 43 people earn so much money in the world as the rest of the world. I mean, I'm sorry, this is
okay. But I think the question is remaining: if basic income will lead to, let us name that, less capitalism, not abolishing it, but having less capitalism. And I'm sure that basic income would lead to that, because the people could demand for higher wages, for more fair working conditions, and they have also the freedom not to look for gainful labor. So that would mean, in effect, less capitalism, but then the profits would decline. And yes, where does all this money for the same level of basic income should then come from? So in the first years, I can imagine that, yes, we can take it from the financial markets and all these rich people. But when we will have less capitalism, then we will have a problem, because we will be successful. So my idea, and also my question is, isn't then, when we will have less capitalism due to basic income, isn't that then acceptable that the amount of basic income could decline? So then when we have less capitalism, so everybody does not need so much money, because a bigger share of our economy is beyond capitalism, beyond gainful work. And then the money we need for a good life must not be so high. What's with that?
It's a
Who wants to answer that?
dream. It is a beautiful dream. And I'm not sure if we have to, I mean, if we start to, where's the word Umverteilung? Hanna, Ulrich, what is the word?
Redistribution.
Redistribution. But redistribution is not as nice as Umverteilung. Okay, never mind. I think we need that debate, but nowadays we are not able. I mean, I know so many people, and not only in the arts, they don't have the power of negotiate in their job. They have it, or they ask a question, then you can go out. To have the security or the inner security to negotiate your money, the time you work, you need an independency, a partly independency, and this is what basic income guarantees. And I agree that maybe we need less money if we have more socialized, but for a very long time, I would think we have to really to take the money from the GAFA, the Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple community, which is, for me, it is a daily scandal, that they really do not pay taxes. And if we could distribute that, I'm fine with for the next 20 years.
Okay, Hanna, how would you solve that problem, or isn't that a problem?
Well, yeah, as I wanted to make clear, I think, yeah, the system that we have set in place, it's the social security system, is very complex, and it's not just about basic income. It's also about these other health insurance, social insurance, and what are we going to do with them? So we have to look at all of them, and then it's a question of how much revenue we need to generate to fund this. And then also, I think, yeah, I said, let's start with this and that tax, and then see. I think this is a good point about Eric Ullenwright. He also always, I really recommend his Real Utopia for that reason, because there are some things we just simply cannot foresee, and I think we need to adapt gradually then and see how the whole economy is going to develop. What I think about your proposal, we can reduce the basic income. Yeah, I think there are, for example, the French degrowth movement. They say we want that. Yeah, we want it to be actually go down to zero, because we rather prefer public infrastructures that are for free. We should give out electricity, housing for free. So these are things that we could think about. We should be aware, I think, if we reduce the basic income, it's this autonomy that we would lose. And if we still have a capitalist money system, then it's quite a bit we might lose.
Okay, so I want to ask the public on this question. We have Paul, and the question is there a contradiction between degrowth and basic income funding?
Not the, oh yeah. It's nice to look on this going.
Well, that's a difficult question and a contested question, isn't it? This one also.
It's contested, yeah.
You picked the most difficult questions, really.
Okay, that's very contested. But nobody says definitely yes. So we have the chance to fund basic income also when we reach degrowth. Okay, so I will look at the Q&A questions. So or it's a question on you, Hanna and Adrienne. You also see the Q&A. If you want to answer some of them, just go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I could make a remark on Branko. Branko said that is also, it refers to Hanna, that the recognition is coming through paid work. And he refers to the fact that in the moment, most artists are suffering like hell, because if they don't get, I mean, what we see in the arts is like in the capitalism. There's a bunch of these people getting much money because they are very cool in writing applications, and a lot of people who really drop out of the arts. And still there is a lot of they need yes, they need the recognition of the people. And this is what in the moment is so dangerous, because all the places to interact with the arts are closed, and that makes it so fragile. But still, Branko is really he is right that people still they work, they produce, they think, art is not stopped because they are not recognized in the moment. That is maybe also a very ambiguity, a two-hat answer.
Okay, thank you. Short possibility for Hanna to answer a question. 1 minute, then we have to close, or 2 minutes.
Oh. It's very difficult for me to listen to what Adrienne is saying and then reading all through the comments.
Yeah.
Can you direct something to me? It's
there's somebody from Czechoslovakia, Jitka. Won't you think that when people can freely choose where their vital powers and time go to, the powerful people? Yeah, you can read. That is especially to you.
I'm somewhere at the bottom. Can you please read it out?
525.
Okay.
Jitka.
Oh yeah.
Starting with Jitka.
It's equality. Can freely choose where their vital powers and time goes. The powerful people. Companies which abuse most people nowadays by forcing them shitty jobs would have less options to make money this way. Wouldn't they be pushed to find essentially different ways, much more acceptable by the majority, and to make their living? I think it depends. I think how much those at power and the wealthy are affected is also dependent on how we fund basic income. If we turn it really into, in which kind of funding basis we choose, if it's actually then also constraining their choices. But that means also if we can introduce wealth taxes and think about how we can contain the accumulation at the bottom, because this is still a problem not solved just by giving a basic income to the poor.
Not to the poor, to everybody.
Or to everybody, well, but no, they will be contributing to funding at the most, the wealthy. That's important. They might have it if they lose all their income, then they have something to fall back on, but they will be contributing the most. So they will not be net losers just in terms of funding. In terms of
okay. So I see there's much to discuss. We are now at the end of this tea session, and thanks for you both for giving us your fine arguments, although many questions are still open. We will come back to that. We as UBIE have also a working group, Basic Income and Ecology. Who's interested in that can send us an email. And yes, that's the main thing I want to say. And yes, thank all for participation. Even if I could not sum up all these questions in Q&A, there were too much, but that shows me that that is a very interesting issue. We will come back to that. Thank you, and have a nice rest of the day. If you want, you can talk the next half hour directly with our guests. Okay.